Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we peel back the layers of reality to reveal the nightmares hiding just beneath. We've all heard campfire tales and urban legends, but what if the most bone-chilling horrors aren't made up at all? What if they're ripped straight from headlines, eyewitness accounts, and cold case files that prove truth is stranger and scarier than fiction? Today, I've compiled three disturbing true scary stories from reliable sources like police reports, autopsies, and survivor testimonies. These aren't ghosts or monsters. They're real events involving unexplained deaths, unimaginable suffering, and human depravity that will make you question everything. Selected for their variety and sheer shock value, I'll add some atmospheric details to immerse you, but the core facts remain chillingly authentic. Let's kick off with a mystery that baffled the world, a young woman's bizarre final moments captured on camera, leading to a discovery no one saw coming. Story 1. The Elevator to Nowhere. It was January 2013, in the heart of downtown Los Angeles, at the infamous Cecil Hotel, a towering relic from the 1920s with a sordid history of suicides, murders, and serial killers, like Richard Ramirez calling it home. The place was a budget stay for backpackers and transients, its faded Art Deco lobby echoing with the ghosts of better days. Elisa Lamb, a 21-year-old Canadian student from Vancouver, checked in alone for what was supposed to be a solo adventure down the West Coast. She was bright, ambitious, studying at the University of British Columbia, and kept a Tumblr blog chronicling her travels and inner thoughts. But by January 31st, something shifted. Elisa vanished, leaving behind a trail of questions that would haunt investigators, her family, and the internet for years. Elisa had been acting erratically, according to hotel staff. She'd been moved from a shared room after complaints of odd behavior, talking to herself, leaving notes on doors warning others to stay away. Her bipolar disorder was a factor, but she'd been managing it with medication. That last day, surveillance footage captured her in the elevator, and it's this video that turns a missing person case into a viral nightmare. In the grainy clip, Elisa steps into the elevator, presses multiple buttons frantically, then hides in the corner as if evading someone unseen. She peeks out into the empty hallway, gestures wildly like she's arguing with phantoms, steps in and out, waves her arms in slow, deliberate motions, almost like a ritual or a game of hide and seek with the invisible. The doors refuse to close, staying open for minutes as she lingers, her face a mask of confusion and fear. Finally, she exits and the doors shut, the elevator ascending without her. Watching it, you can't help but feel a chill. Was she hallucinating, being pursued, or something worse, like the hotel's dark energy manifesting? Days turned to weeks, with no sign of Elisa. Her parents flew in, plastering missing posters across Skid Row, the gritty neighborhood surrounding the Cecil. Guests started complaining about the water, low pressure, a foul taste, blackish color seeping from taps. Like rotten eggs mixed with something metallic, one resident later said. On February 19th, a maintenance worker climbed to the roof to check the four massive water tanks supplying the building. These were 1,000-gallon behemoths, 8 feet tall, accessible only by a locked door and alarm system. Though later investigations revealed the alarms were often disabled and a fire escape provided easy access. He pried open one lid, heavy as a manhole cover, and peered inside. There, floating face up in the murky water, was Elisa's naked body. Bloated and decomposing after nearly 3 weeks submerged, her clothes, the same from the video, bobbed nearby like discarded rags. The discovery sparked pandemonium. How did she get up there? The roof door was supposed to trigger an alarm, yet no one heard it. Scaling the tanks without a ladder seemed impossible, especially for someone of her stature. And closing the lid behind her? Suicide theories crumbled. No note, no history of attempts, and the autopsy showed no trauma. No drugs beyond her prescriptions, trace alcohol, and over-the-counter meds. The coroner ruled it accidental drowning, attributing her behavior to a bipolar episode leading to psychosis. But doubts lingered. Toxicology missed potential hallucinogens? Subcutaneous blood pooling in sensitive areas hinted at assault, though dismissed as decomposition. Her phone vanished, never recovered. And her Tumblr? It cued posts after her death. Eerie musings on life and loss popping up like messages from beyond. In the weeks following, the hotel became a macabre tourist spot. Guests who'd unknowingly drunk the contaminated water, showering in it, cooking with it, reported nausea, visions of shadows and mirrors. One claimed to see a woman in the elevator, mimicking Elisa's gestures. Fictional horrors creep in when I think back, imagining Elisa's final moments, climbing that tank in a delusional haze. The lid clanging shut like a coffin, water filling her lungs as the city buzzed below. Or worse, was she lured? The Cecil's history whispers of darker forces, Black Dahlia connections, Ramirez's bloody stays. Some theorize a cover-up, the hotel suppressing details to avoid lawsuits. Elisa's family sued, settling out of court, but answers remain elusive. Years later, the Cecil, rebranded as Stay on Main, stands as affordable housing, but the tank is gone, dismantled like a bad memory. Netflix dramatized it in Crime Scene, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. But the real terror is the unknown. A young woman, full of promise, reduced to a viral ghost in an elevator to nowhere. If you're traveling alone, remember Elisa, lock your doors, trust your instincts, because sometimes the scariest threats are the ones you can't see coming. Story 2. The Mountain's Silent Scream. It was January 1959. In the remote Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia, a frozen wilderness where temperatures plunged to 30 degrees, and the wind howled like tormented souls through endless pines. A group of 9 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, set out on a challenging expedition to reach Otorten Peak, a trek rated Category 3 for its extreme difficulty. These weren't novices. They were seasoned mountaineers, engineers, and students in their early 20s, equipped with skis, tents, and journals to document their adventure. Their route wound through dense taiga forests and barren plateaus, where indigenous Mansi tribes whispered legends of the Mountain of the Dead, a place where spirits claim the unwary. The group sent postcards home, full of excitement. The snow is deep, but our spirits are high. Little did they know, by February the 1st, something unimaginable would reduce their camp to a scene of inexplicable horror, baffling investigators for decades and fueling theories from avalanches to aliens. The last known sighting was on January 31st, when the group helped a local geologist before pressing on. They pitched their tent on the eastern slope of Kolachiako, ironically translating to Dead Mountain in Mansi, an open, exposed area chosen perhaps to avoid forested hazards. Photos recovered later showed them digging a flat platform in the snow, smiling faces bundled in wool hats and parkas. Oblivious to the encroaching doom, that night, Temperatures dropped brutally, the wind a relentless assault. What happened next remains a puzzle pieced together from the grim aftermath. Search parties mobilized on February 20 after the group missed their telegram deadline. Rescuers followed ski tracks to the campsite, finding the tent slashed open from the inside, as if the occupants fled in blind panic. Footprints, some barefoot, others in socks or a single boot, trailed down the slope for about a kilometer toward a cedar forest, fading into the snow. Inside the tent, belongings intact, including cameras, diaries, and uneaten food, suggesting a sudden exodus around 9 to 10 p.m. No signs of struggle with outsiders. It was as if an internal terror drove them out into the lethal cold. The first bodies were discovered near a cedar tree, where a small fire had been kindled. Yuri Krivonishenko, 23, and Yuri Doroshenko, 21, lay there, frozen in undergarments, skin scorched as if they desperately hugged the flames. Branches were broken up to 5 meters high, indicating frantic climbing, perhaps to escape something on the ground or scout for the tent. Nearby, under the tree, Igor Dyatlov's body, 23, face up with arms crossed over his chest as if resigned to fate. Rustem Slobodin, 23, and Zenaida Kolmogorova, 22, were found midway back to the tent, crawling uphill, their bodies battered by the elements. All 5 died of hypothermia, but anomalies abounded. Missing tongues, later attributed to scavengers or decomposition, minor injuries like bruises and cuts, and radioactive traces on clothing from thorium lanterns, though whispers of government tests lingered. Weeks later, as snow thawed in May, the remaining 4, in a ravine 4 meters deep under snow, revealed the true disturbance. Semyon Zolotaryov, 38, a WWE veteran with mysterious tattoos. Alexander Kolovatov, 24. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, 23, and Lyudmila Dubinina, 20, suffered catastrophic injuries, crushed skulls, shattered ribs, as if struck by immense force, comparable to a car crash but without external wounds. Dubinina's tongue, eyes, and part of her face were gone, not just scavenged, but surgically precise in theories. Zolotaryov's camera hung around his neck, undeveloped film showing a final frame, blurry lights in the sky, orbs glowing against the dark. Autopsies noted no internal organ damage corresponding to the skeletal trauma, baffling pathologists. One likened it to a blast wave without explosion. The official verdict? An overwhelming force which they were unable to overcome. A vague, compelling natural force. Case closed in May 1959 amid Cold War secrecy, but details leaked, igniting speculation. Avalanche? The slope was gentle at 15-30 degrees, no signs of snowslide. Tent undisturbed uphill. Infrasound from wind vortices inducing panic. Possible, but unproven. Mansi attack. Tracks showed no outsiders and the tribe was cleared. UFOs? Witnesses reported orange spheres in the sky that February. Military logs noting similar phenomena. Or a Soviet weapons test gone wrong. Perhaps a missile or parachute mines explaining radiation and injuries. Survivors? There were none. But Yuri Yudin, 22, turned back early due to illness, haunted forever by what-ifs. He identified bodies, noting mismatched clothing, as if the living stripped the dead in desperation. Diaries stopped abruptly. Last entry cheerful, sketches in margin showing tents and peaks, but one cryptic drawing, a figure with elongated limbs lurking in trees, perhaps a hallucination or Yeti legend bleed through. In 2019, Russia reopened the case, concluding avalanche, but skeptics persist. No debris, inconsistent injuries. Expeditions to Dead Mountain report eerie silences, compasses spinning wildly, and phantom footprints appearing overnight. Fictional horrors haunt retellings. I imagine that night, a low hum vibrating the tent, eyes glowing in the blizzard, an unseen entity peeling back sanity layer by layer, orbs descending, probing minds, forcing the group into the cold, where bones cracked like twigs under invisible hammers. The Dyatlov Pass incident, documented in declassified files, photos, and journals, remains a testament to nature's, or something's, cruelty. 9 young lives snuffed out, their final screams swallowed by the snow. If you're venturing into the wild, heed the warnings. Some mountains keep their dead, and the silence there isn't empty, it's waiting. Story 3. The Farmhouse Whispers. It was March 31st, 1922, in the sleepy Bavarian countryside of Germany, on an isolated farm called Hinterkaifeck, a sprawling property nestled among rolling fields and dense woods, miles from the nearest village of Kaifeck. The Gruber family lived there. Andreas, 63, a gruff farmer known for his temper, his wife Cecilia, 72, their widowed daughter Victoria, 35, her children, young Cecilia, 7, and Josef, 2, and the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who arrived that very day. The farm was self-sufficient with barns full of hay, livestock lowing in the pens, and a main house of sturdy timber walls that had stood for generations. But whispers had plagued the family for months, strange noises in the attic, footsteps crunching on snow with no tracks visible, newspapers appearing that no one subscribed to, and tools vanishing only to reappear misplaced. Andreas confided to neighbors about a presence. He'd found footprints leading from the forest to the house, but none returning. "Something's watching us," he muttered, but dismissed hiring help or alerting police, fearing ridicule in their tight-knit, superstitious community. The previous maid had fled 6 months earlier, terrified by what she called ghosts in the walls, creaks and murmurs at night, like voices plotting in the shadows. Victoria, a church singer with an angelic voice, sketched in her journal the farmhouse under moonlight, but in her drawings, elongated shadows stretched from the attic windows, eyes glinting like predators. Locals gossiped about family secrets, rumors of incest between Andreas and Victoria, Joseph, perhaps his son, not her late husband's. Tension simmered. But on that fateful Friday, life plodded on. Chores done, dinner of bread and sausage, the family retiring early as a light snow dusted the ground. Maria Baumgartner, 44, arrived that afternoon, fresh from town, unaware of the farm's eerie reputation. She helped with evening milking, her sister dropping her off and waving goodbye, the last outsider to see them alive. As night fell, the house settled into silence, broken only by the wind sighing through eaves. What unfolded next was pieced together from the carnage discovered 4 days later, on April 4th, by concerned neighbors Lorenz Schlittenbauer and the brothers Michael and Johann Pohl. Smoke hadn't risen from the chimney for days, livestock unfed and bellowing hungrily. The dog chained outside barked madly, but the family ignored calls. Entering the barn first, the men stumbled into hell. Blood splattered the hay bales like abstract art, the air thick with the coppery stench of slaughter. Victoria lay face down, skull caved in by savage blows from a mattock, a heavy pickaxe-like tool from the farm. Her mother, Cecilia Sr., beside her, throat gashed, face pulverized. Young Cecilia, the 7-year-old, had her jaw shattered, arms raised in futile defense. She'd lived hours post-attack, pulling out her hair in agony before expiring. Andreas was nearby, his head split open, brains oozing onto the straw. The killer had stacked the bodies neatly, covering them with hay and a door panel, as if tidying a chore. Footprints in blood led to the house where horror continued. In the maid's room, Maria Baumgartner lay in bed, her neck slashed so deeply it nearly severed her head, sheets soaked crimson, killed as she slept, perhaps the first victim lured outside by a noise. Upstairs, little Joseph in his bassinet, throat cut ear to ear, a tiny form in a pool of red. The murders were methodical, the mattock wielded with rage yet precision, striking vital areas. No robbery, money untouched in drawers, food half-eaten on the table suggesting the killer dined post-massacre. Most disturbing, the perpetrator lingered. Livestock were fed over the weekend, smoke seen from the chimney Saturday, and Sunday, the dog tied anew. Someone lived among the dead for days, perhaps in the attic where fresh straw beds and food scraps were found later. Had the presence Andreas sensed been a squatter all along, hiding overhead, listening to family arguments, plotting? Investigation was bungled from the start. Police from Munich arrived late. The scene contaminated. Neighbors trampled evidence, even removing heads for examination by a doctor, later reattached crookedly for burial. Suspects abounded. Vagrants, given the post-WWI chaos, jilted lovers of Victoria who had affairs, or Lorenz Schlittenbauer himself, rumored father of Joseph, a paternity suit loomed, who handled bodies oddly calmly and knew the farm intimately. He claimed finding footprints earlier matching Andreas's tales. Autopsies confirmed deaths around 7 and 8 p.m. on March 31st, blows from the mattock found hidden in the attic, bloodied. No fingerprints then, but modern theories point to a stalker or family foe. The farm was demolished in 1923, a cross erected where it stood, but legends persist. Hikers report whispers in the woods, child's cries on windy nights, shadows flitting among trees. In 2007, police academy students reviewed the case, concluding Schlittenbauer the likely killer, motive, opportunity, inconsistencies in his story, but too late for justice. Fictional chills enhance the tale, imagining the attic dweller, eyes peering through floor cracks, sketching murder plans as the family slept below. Or young Cecilia's final hours, alone in the barn, hearing the killer hum upstairs, tending animals as if nothing happened. Hinterkaifeck remains one of Germany's unsolved horrors, detailed in police files, witness statements, and Victoria's journal fragments. 6 lives extinguished. A killer who played house with corpses. If you're on a remote farm, listen to the creaks. Sometimes, the monsters aren't under the bed. They're above it, waiting. And that's a wrap on these 3 disturbing true scary stories that prove reality can outdo any horror movie. From a hotel's watery grave to a mountain's deadly enigma and a farmhouse soaked in blood, these events remind us how fragile life is and how mysteries can linger unsolved. If these tales kept you up or made you check your locks, give this a thumbs up, subscribe for more real-life chills, and share your own creepy encounter in the comments. I might read it in the next episode. Stay vigilant out there, and see you soon. If the shadows don't get you first.